Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, thank you so much for joining us. General Berger, Admiral Gilday, thank you also. And thank you both for your service to our nation. What an incredible impact you have had. This will probably be the last time that you testify before us in your current positions, but we look forward to continued dialogue in the years to come. And again, thank you. Secretary Del Toro, I want to begin with the scenario that we have before us. The request from the administration on building 9 ships, retiring 11 ships. From last year's request, building 8 ships, retiring 24 ships. The 30-year shipbuilding plan that gives a choice where the code says 355 ships. All of these things, to me, are very frustrating. And Mr. Secretary, I'm not a mathematician, but I do not know any laws of math that allow you to do addition by subtraction. Here we are today with taking 5 cruisers out of the weapons inventory. And I say weapons inventory because each of them have 120 VLS tubes. So we're talking 600 VLS tubes. There is no replacement between now and 2027, or for that matter, even in the near term beyond. We see we have a 31-ship floor now in the code for amphibs. Now we're going to retire 3 LSDs early, by the way. With the Navy shrinking and shipbuilding capacity, as you spoke about, in a crisis mode, we see ourselves at a tipping point in the history of this nation's Navy Marine Corps team. And I appreciate the conversations that we've had. I look forward to working with you. I do think there are things that we can do together that help us get on the plus side of where our Navy needs to be. And we can talk about our ship capabilities, but capacity is by itself critically important. Quantity has a quality all its own. I'd love for you to share with us what your plans are going forward to make sure we get both sides of the equation right, to make sure we hit the gas pedal on the build side, but also make sure we do everything we can to make sure that the ships we have get to their expected service lives. You know, we cannot afford anything less, and the maintenance side is also critical. And Admiral Gilday, I appreciate you meeting with me at some of the maintenance yards, and I take your commitment too, and the maintenance side being an all-hands-on-deck call. Thank you for doing that. Mr. Secretary, I'd love to get your perspective on that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your leadership on this position, and I do very much look forward to continuing to work with you very collaboratively on solutions that are going to get us to a better place. At any given time, the three of us are always concerned about readiness, modernization, and capacity. Without question, we don't want a hollow force. We put an enormous amount of investments in readiness. Yep. Over the course of the last 10 years, this Congress, previous Congresses, and previous administrations have all been focused on modernizing our Navy because we've essentially inherited John Lehman's Navy. Yep. And the fact is that ships get old. Yep. And once they reach a certain point, even if they're below their ESLs, but they're not in the correct material condition to be able to continue to operate those ships, we cannot deploy those VLS cells, for example, if they're stuck in a maintenance pier and they can't be fired from ashore. So the real key to success is trying to get them operationally available to the fleet to fulfill the missions that they have to fulfill. So out of those 5 cruisers, for example, there's nothing more that I would love to do is to invest resources into 3 of those to actually extend them by 1 or 2 deployments. And I think that's achievable, as you and I have spoken about in the past. In the case of both the Vicksburg and the Cowpens, those ships will never see another deployment regardless of how much money we put into them. So I think it's a far better strategy to allocate the monies that are dedicated to those ships and apply them to, say, the LSDs, for example, so that we can get the Tortuga out of its maintenance availability and operational again to support the Commandant. And I think those are the types of solutions that we could work together on in the future in this year's budget and next year's budget to get it to a better place.
Very good. Thank you. General Berger, thank you so much for your vision, for looking in the future, for taking some bold moves to make sure the Marine Corps is in the right place. Force Design 2030 pushes those issues, asks our Marine Corps to experiment, to look at what the path is forward. Can you tell us from your perspective, tell us the lessons learned, both the things you've learned that didn't work, but the things that you're finding do work, and especially as we relate to these challenges in the Indo-Pacific?
First of all, I think if I had to do it all over again, I probably would have spoken more earlier on about the things in the Marine Corps that would not change, which is most of the Marine Corps. This is an evolution, and we have modernized the Marine Corps several times in our history when we sensed If we don't, we'll fall behind.
Gentleman's
So-
time's expired. Chair, and I